ChatGPT said, "What happens when two of the biggest forces in music collide on live television over an old controversy that was never supposed to be brought up again?" Well, you're about to see, because what unfolded on the Kelly Clarkson show left not only the audience but also the crew frozen in disbelief. Don't forget to subscribe and share your thoughts in the comments, because this story takes more turns than anyone could have predicted. Kelly Clarkson leaned back in her chair, that warm, familiar smile spreading across her face as she looked over at her guest. The crowd was buzzing with excitement, many already holding up their phones, eager to capture what they assumed would be a fun, light-hearted interview full of laughter and sweet memories. "Shania, having you here is honestly a dream for me," Kelly began, her voice filled with genuine warmth. "Your music shaped so much of my childhood, and I know it did the same for millions of people around the globe." Shania nodded politely, but her body language carried a hint of caution. "That's very kind of you, Kelly. I've always admired your voice, and your success on American Idol really opened the door for so many." "Oh, thank you," Kelly replied, clasping her hands. "You know, I was thinking before you came out here, and I realized something. We've never actually had a real conversation about how the music business has shifted since both of us started. You really owned the 90s, and then I came up in the early 2000s. A subtle flicker crossed Shania's face, though she quickly masked it. "Yes, the industry has definitely changed a lot since then." Kelly leaned in, her instincts as an interviewer kicking in. "When I was just beginning, there were always these rumors about established stars and how they felt about new artists. Some of it was probably just silly gossip, but you know how it goes in this business." "I'm not sure I understand what you're trying to say," Shania responded, her tone suddenly cooler. The audience noticed the shift, the playful mood slowly dying down as they focused more closely on the tense conversation. Kelly seemed aware that she'd stepped onto shaky ground, but instead of stepping back, she pressed on. "Well, what I mean is there were stories about established artists feeling threatened or thinking the business was moving too fast. I'm sure you heard some of that too." Shania's jaw tightened ever so slightly. "Kelly, maybe we should talk about music instead of dredging up old industry chatter from 2 decades ago." "Of course," Kelly said quickly, though her expression showed she wasn't ready to let go. "I just think it's fascinating how the difference between perception and reality works. For instance, I once read an article where someone, I won't say who, claimed reality show winners would never last in country music." The room went completely still. Even the camera crew paused, as though they were witnessing something historic. Shania's eyes narrowed. "Are you pointing to something in particular, Kelly? Or are we just making vague comments about old magazine pieces?" Kelly's smile faltered before she recovered. "I'm only saying it's funny how wrong those predictions turned out to be. Here we both are, still making music, still connecting with fans." "Yes, here we are," Shania replied, her voice edged with something sharper than politeness. The tension thickened in the studio. Kelly, usually known for her relaxed interview style, pushed again. "I guess I'm wondering if you ever felt the industry tried to pit women against one another, especially when newer artists were rising and established artists were trying to hold their place. Maintain their relevance?" Shania repeated slowly, studying Kelly's face with intensity. Kelly realized she may have crossed a line, but she didn't back away. "I don't mean it negatively. I just think it's interesting how artists manage transitions." "And you believe I was worried about staying relevant when you won Idol?" Shania asked. The crowd fell silent. Producers likely debated whether to cut to commercial, but the drama unfolding was too gripping. "I never said that," Kelly answered quickly, though her defensive tone gave away her unease. "No, you didn't say it directly," Shania admitted. "But you've been circling something since we started, and we both know what that is." Kelly inhaled deeply, and instead of diffusing the situation, she dove in. "Look, Shania, we're both adults. Back then, some comments were made that weren't exactly supportive of artists like me." "Comments I supposedly made?" Shania's expression hardened. "I'm not accusing you," Kelly said fast. "But there were reports. Maybe this is our chance to set the record straight." The entire studio seemed to hold its breath. "You know what, Kelly?" Shania leaned forward, her gaze locked. "Let's clear the air. If you've got something to say to me, just say it. Kelly's smile faded, determination taking over. Fine. In that Country Weekly interview, you said reality show winners took shortcuts, that real country stars paid their dues. You specifically said we'd never understand the real struggle. The crowd gasped. Phones recorded every second of the confrontation. And you think that was about you? Shania asked. The timing was too perfect, Kelly shot back. I had just won Idol and was starting to cross into country, and suddenly Shania Twain is saying people like me don't deserve respect. People like you? Shania echoed, incredulous. Kelly, you won the biggest singing contest in the country. You had instant fame, instant deals. That's not the same grind as years of small bars and songwriting in Nashville. Kelly's face flushed. So I didn't earn my success? Because I won a show, everything after was handed to me? I'm saying your path was different, Shania replied coldly. At the time, I felt it mattered to point that out. Country music has always been about authenticity. And you think I wasn't authentic? Kelly's voice cracked with anger. You think growing up broke in Texas, working non-stop to support my family, having an absent dad? None of that was real enough for you? Shania hesitated briefly, then hardened again. Your struggles were real, Kelly, but your rise in the industry was manufactured. That's different. The audience was captivated. This wasn't an interview anymore. It was a clash of icons live on daytime TV. Kelly shot up from her chair. Manufactured? That's what you think of me? That everything I've done is fake because I won a show at 20? Shania stayed seated, but her posture was stiff. The business changed, and not for the better. Reality TV created shortcuts that skipped the traditional process. Oh, don't pretend this is just about the industry, Kelly fired back. You weren't making general points in that interview. You were talking about me. If the shoe fits, Shania said, her voice quiet but cutting. The crowd gasped again. Kelly's voice trembled. Are you serious? I've respected you since day one. Never a bad word from me about you. And this is what you really think? Shania finally stood facing Kelly directly. I don't think you're a fraud. I think you're talented, but talent isn't the same as authenticity. And yes, the industry lost something important when TV personalities started being prioritized. TV personalities, Kelly repeated with fury. So that's all I am to you? I think you're a pop star who leaned into country when it suited you, Shania answered, her words like a blade. The room froze. Kelly stared at her, the weight of anger and betrayal heavy on her face. After everything, after all my success, you'll sit here and say I'm not a real country artist? I'm saying what I said 20 years ago, Shania responded firmly. The industry shifted, and not everyone liked the change. Kelly's voice dropped, but carried more power than ever. Well, now we all know exactly what you think. The silence that followed was unbearable. The audience too stunned to move. Kelly finally broke it. The saddest part? I brought you here because I respected you. I thought we could talk as women in this business, as artists. And instead, here we are. Sometimes honest conversations aren't comfortable, Shania said, though her calm cracked slightly. Kelly laughed bitterly. Honest? Do you know what your words did to me at 20? To wake up and see my idol dismissing me as some shortcut? The industry is tough. Everyone gets criticized, Shania answered quietly. That wasn't criticism, Kelly snapped. That was tearing me down before I had a chance to stand. The fire only grew from there, each exchange sharper than the last, dragging in personal lives, past marriages, and accusations that cut to the bone. Every word added another layer of tension, and the audience knew they were witnessing a moment that would live in TV history forever. By the end, Shania stormed off stage, leaving Kelly standing alone before the stunned crowd. Kelly turned back to the cameras, her face etched with anger, exhaustion, and a flicker of relief. Well, she said, managing a tired smile, that wasn't what I had planned for today's show. She thanked the audience, urged viewers to subscribe and comment, and admitted that sometimes the hardest truths are the ones that matter most. The credits rolled as she sat there, shoulders squared, her face showing every bit of the storm she had just weathered.